Hello, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us for this very special session. You all are in for a really big treat. We are so proud to announce the next learning session on healing and writing with ASC's active member, Phuong T. Vuong. Phuong is a poet and writer from Oakland and author of The House I Inherit. She has publications in or forthcoming in American Poetry Review, Best American Poetry, Kenyon Review Online, the Asian American Writers Workshop, The Margins, and elsewhere. She is currently a PhD student in literature at the University of California, San Diego, where she researches Asian American feminism and communes with the Pacific. I also have the honor of working alongside Phuong in our political education committee at Asian Solidarity Collective and on our weekly newsletter. She really brings like a calming brilliance with a tiny side of dry humor to everything she does. So you all are in for a really big treat. So I will pass it to you, Phuong.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Stacey. Completely have enjoyed working with you. It's been so wonderful to be part of ASC. Actually, sorry, I was about to screen share, but I don't need to yet. I just wanted to say hello to everyone, and thanks to those of you who, whether you're joining us now or have been with us for a while, thanks for being here. As Stacey said, my name is Phuong. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I'm a writer, a student, and an active member of ASC. And I'm going to try to make this session as interactive as possible. I know it's a little different on this platform. So if you are able to put your name, your pronouns, and maybe a word or two about what led you here today. Pause for that. In the next 30 minutes, what we'll do is we'll reflect on sources of support and methods of expression. So we'll do that. I'll start by sharing some ideas about healing as in terms of a concept and some of the framing I have around it. And then we'll look at some sample poems and then also have time to write for ourselves, hopefully also share out. So if you're able to, again, use the chat and add your name, your pronoun, something that led you here today. Thanks, Stacey. Okay, let's see if I can get the screen share going. Nope. Well, for some reason, it's not working. Okay, I believe that's being shared now. Awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to start with just some context because I think this topic can be really difficult and bring up so many different things. And also the idea of healing is so broad. So I wanted to start with saying that I'm not a mental health provider. And while we'll be talking about writing and healing today, writing cannot take the place of a therapeutic relationship. So in other words, writing can be therapeutic, but it isn't therapy. So that's, I think, important to remember. Also, writing doesn't replace action, and the idea of healing shouldn't stifle questions. And so by itself, neither healing or writing can address injustices. I think many of us who are here today probably believe this and know this already, but healing cannot be sustained without systemic changes that end violence. So working on writing or moving towards healing are tools that we have, and structural transformation and abolition remain important to reducing or ending harm in the first place. And actually, we might want to question how we use the concept of healing. I've been thinking a lot about this quote I read. I read this from another writer, but Jennifer Tamayo writes, "I worry about healing. Every day, I worry about the grounds that healing solidifies. Who will be the last to heal? Who will be forgotten in this healing process? I want to resist the imperative to heal." So I think one thing she's asking us to think about is how not healing can actually help give us insights and also leave certain doors open for more understanding or more analysis. And also how if we expect everyone to heal in a certain way or have an idea of what healing looks like, then that can also create hierarchies or unevenness, because we can't all access healing in the same way, in the ways that we might need. Earlier today, Candy talked about the idea of the undesirable and those who are considered undesirable and how they're treated. And I think that this connects to that idea really well, that we shouldn't have a fixed idea of what healing is, that can be used to punish or judge people for where they're at. So trying to stay open and seeing what that allows us to get to. But all of that said, we are here to think about healing and writing, and I think that these are tools that we have. Writing is a space where we can consider what has happened, what is happening, what can happen, and what we want to happen. This is a quote from Audre Lorde's work on her essay, "Poetry is Not a Luxury." She writes that poetry is a vital necessity for our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change, first made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. So this is a way poetry or writing can give language so that we get closer to the things that we believe and think, and hopefully we can take action. So that's kind of how I am approaching today. I'm thinking about Audre Lorde and Jennifer Tamayo together, so that we think about healing and writing as a journey, something that brings us towards more clarity and more space, so that we can imagine the options that we might have. We talked about abolition and the need to be creative within that we're tearing down, but also building up. So what can we imagine? So this is one way that I think of healing and writing working together with abolition. So I hope, that we can move towards this today. That is really about not a destination or an accomplishment, but something that we're always striving to reach. So I also want to issue just a general content warning too. I know people might have different things they're bringing in today, and I will probably share work. I will share work that touches on assault, death, depression. It might connect to histories of colonialism and genocide. So just a warning and encouragement to be mindful and to take care of yourself. Okay, so let's look at some poems and then we'll have some time to write. This first one is from Monica Suk. She identifies as a Cambodian American poet, the daughter of refugees. And I think something important to know here is that weaving is really important in Cambodian culture. And so this is a poem written to a loom, which is a tool to help with weaving. And also feel free to use the chat and interact in terms of just what is coming up for you in terms of the poem. Again, wanting to make this, try to make this as interactive as possible. So Ode to the Loom, I'll read this and share a little bit about it. Dear loom, dear box skeleton, special ordered and handcrafted from wood, you rest on the floor and wait for her to sit down with you, and together weave fabrics for weddings between lovers and warriors, the survivors surviving. Your sturdy frame animates her as living portrait, simple as the chain on her glasses, the calm focus. Steady hands on the shuttle, the ref and the warp, feet on the treadle. You obey the soft sheen of turquoise, cherry, and gold, wrapped at the body's waist. Your gift to the body. Hundreds of bodies for the new year, for the blessings of ancestors. Sweet loom, old friend of an old woman, you are an ancestor she prays to, so that when her hair falls, not as rain does, but as nails the evening hangs on, and her hands slip no longer from silk, but on walls in the dark hall to her room. Her daughters will sadly dismantle you, remnant of a lost home, sacred language coded inside her native language. When she passes, you will be stowed away in the basement. You will remind us of her, you loom, who have kept her company, non-judgmental witness to her secrets. You will remember best the way she works, the spots on her legs, her bare toes peeking from the edge of her sarong, the slow motion of her hand slapping flies in summertime, and the sound of gorges rushed from her face in the quiet hours of the cloth. When she was depressed, she was depressed. She pressed against you daily and wept. So I'll pause again just to encourage folks to interact with the poem and to take a moment and think about, what were powerful lines for you? What stood out? What does it raise? Just on a really literal level, there's a loom for weaving fabric, and the speaker's grandmother, the old woman in the poem, works at it. And when she could no longer, the loom, it was put away by her daughters. And it's described, I think there are really interesting descriptions of it. It's described as sturdy, animating her, so kind of giving her life. It's described as, something that obeys the fabric, as an old friend, and also the ancestor. So the loom becomes representative of kind of where she comes from or who she comes from. And I was, of course, preparing for this, looking at this poem a lot, and realizing actually the loom is something that knows the grandmother really well. You will remember her best, the way she works, the spots on her legs, her bare toes peeking. So the loom is actually really in close contact and intimate with the grandmother. And so when she's sad, she's weeping with the loom. So the loom is made into a person or personified by the poet as a thing, or really a person almost, that supports the grandmother. So that's what I wanted to share today. The main poem that we'll focus on, that will connect to the writing prompt I'll share later, which is basically to write an ode or a letter similar to this to something that has supported you. Just want to pause for a second and look at the chat. Thanks, Quay, for sharing. I love the part where it says the loom will remember her best. Yeah, exactly. I think that's so important. What can go unsaid in the spaces of culture and generations. Yeah. Yeah, the loom becomes a place where something is shared, even when maybe you cannot share that with somebody else that is, alive. Thank you. I'll share briefly two quick examples. This one is called I Am a Miner. It's from a longer poem called I Am a Miner, The Light Burns Blue by Victoria Chang. Yeah, I'll read it. The rain is undressed from the sky. The soil opens, takes rain in, as if it has the answers, because the soil has no choice, because the soil is assaulted too. There are diamonds deep in the forest of soil, pustules of God. If you heat a diamond at high temperatures, it will dissolve into thin air like a woman. There are diamonds beneath a baby's foot and its soft nail clippings. Here, the rain does not have a mouth. It is more slap than tongue. Congrats, the cards say. Hand wash me. Your little mouth says, as it kisses me, the raindrops reflect my face into millions of yous. So this is from her poem called Obit, which is about the passing of her parents. And the main thing I wanted to share here was just how the language itself and the way it looks on the page can reflect the struggle it is to try to communicate, which is kind of where we ended up with the other poem as well. There's a struggle to share here. And then especially in the second half of the poem, we have the diamonds and a baby's foot and rain and a card all of a sudden. So as you hear this, you might be wondering what is happening, which I think is also part of the point. We talk about healing not being linear, and I think our language can express that too. So, today, try to trust yourself and see what comes up in terms of the unconscious or in terms of using language in a different way. And then I will share one more quick thing. I knew Stacy would be here, and I knew that there would be also some other folks who probably do different types of art forms. And so this is something for folks who might be into more visual forms. So this is called Gotaku by Diana Koing Wing from her book Ghost of, and I will share all the people I'm naming and their sources as well at the end. But this poem, her brother cut himself out of photos, family photos, before he died. And so she wrote poems, some of them took the shape of what was cut out. And so I just wanted to encourage folks to, maybe use what you create today and continue to work with it in other forms. So I don't think writing has to be restrictive. You can use the words in many different ways. So a little bit of inspiration. So taking all of those different ideas, I want to bring us to some writing time. So there are 2 prompts I have here. And of course, if you feel moved to do something else or just something else comes up for you, feel free to do that and come up with a 3rd option. The first option is based on Monica Silk's poem. So it says, write a letter to an object, or it could even be some feeling or someone. So write a letter to an object that has supported you or a loved one during difficult times. Aim to use detailed descriptions. Write to it like they are a person. So write to the object if they're a person. Prompt number 2 says, what is the shape of your grief or trauma, or whatever calls for healing? Write from its perspective. What does it say? What does it want? Try to express how it thinks or the language it would use. This is tied to the 2 later examples that use space and that use art and shapes differently from the first one. So what does it look like? And what does it speak like? What does it sound like? You can try to portray that. I will, just encourage you to think about what feels right for you today. And of course, again, feel free to choose to write about whatever comes up. I will give us, let's see. I'll leave the prompt up, but I will play some music. And I found a poem or a song that is about 10 minutes. So it's just instrumental. Hopefully you can find some paper or maybe pull up a Google Doc. And here's 10 minutes to write. Feel free to write in the chat too if you have any questions. Okay, take a few more seconds and maybe finish that last line. Okay, I'm going to stop share while you'll do that. Okay, now I can see the chat. So we have about 3 minutes, and I hope that something came out of that, or that it was a useful experience for you. Again, in the spirit of trying to make this interactive, if you feel like comfortable sharing, take a second to read through what you've written and type it into the chat, just so we can kind of be here with each other, engage, and maybe even converse about it. I know it's a little tricky with the chat. I actually ended up writing too, so I'll write a little bit in there. I realized I have the option to talk, so I could just read, but I wrote, water slips through steel colander. A sink is a good place to hide tears, mixed with cleaning the fish. Scales pearlescent scattering across the kitchen. I was thinking about my mother. Yeah, I was reading through the introductions earlier, and it's so great to see the different people who have arrived here. So thank you, Lily, for sharing. Awesome. I am also going to share, as if anybody else is typing, I'll wait for you. I'm going to share the sources that I wrote about in the slides, just in case anyone wants to find them later. It's getting all stuck together. Okay. Those are some of the sources that I quoted. And I hope that today gave you a little bit of space to be creative, to explore something new. And, in the spirit of it not ending, I hope that you continue to try to write or be creative in some way. Oh, awesome. I also want to share that, there may have been questions or feelings that have come up, or just, that there can be a lack of resolution, and just to hold that and be gentle with yourself. I know there's another session we're heading into, but, try to make time for yourself to take care of whatever you may need to. And yeah, just thank you for being here and for trying something new. I hope this was a meaningful moment for you.
Wow, thank you so much, Phuong. And thank you everyone else for participating. I hope that was a healing experience, or even if it was open-ended. I love reading what everyone wrote about, and I feel definitely closer to all of you after knowing that stuff. I wrote personally about my teapot and being a friend to remind me to be all right with solitude and calm. And I love how a lot of people and folks are talking about like food and plants. I see your Nanai's backyard, your Bible. Yeah, great. Thanks so much, everyone. And thank you again, Phuong. And thank you for bringing in the importance too of questions and like the non-linear process of healing, because I think in learning about abolition, especially from all the folks that have been here today, there are so many unknowns. It's all gray areas. There's no right linear path to get to where we want to be. So thanks for that reminder. ASC is so lucky to be able to work with you and learn from you. So thank you. So thanks everyone for joining us so far today. We are at a break time. So we want to encourage you all to take the next 10 minutes for your needs. I know a lot of that might have stirred up some thoughts or processes that you might want to sit with, or maybe do some breathing exercises on your own. We'll be dropping the donation link in the chat, so please feel free to donate or help share this link with other folks. And we appreciate your support. So enjoy the break. We will return around 5:40 for our last panel of the summit. It's going to be on the main stage, and it's entitled Collective Liberation. It's got so many folks that you're not going to want to miss. So we'll see you on the main stage at 5:40.